Right, let's start. So let me open the previous Webdynpro component. So I'll go to Webdynpro component. I'll open the yesterday's Webdynpro component. What is the last topic we discussed yesterday? Roadmap UI element. Okay. Now see here, either at the view level or component controller level. So let me go to the view level. If you go to the methods tab, in the methods tab, you can observe if I click on this drop down, we have three types of methods. This is normal method, like WD unit is what? Normal method. Normal method is what? It is called by what? SAP. WD unit is called whenever the view is what? Displayed. Okay. Like this, different methods will be called at what? Different stages. Then we have event handler methods. When this event handler methods will be called whenever the event is raised. Okay. So for the button, on action event, event handler method will be called. For input field, on enter event, event handler method will be called. Similarly, we have another type of method called as what? Supply function. So let us understand the purpose of what? Supply function. Okay, so we have a special type of method called as what? Supply function. So let me check whether I'll get any standard documentation related to supply function. Supply function in Webdynpro. Okay, so let me go to the standard SAP documentation. Okay, so you can see here. One second, please. This is related to Java. Again, this is Java only now. One second. Okay, so with Java also not an issue. Yeah, so these are all custom. Yeah, let me go to this here. The Webdynpro programming model provides a concept of what supply function to fill what context nodes, or more precisely their node collections. Okay, they can be defined for value nodes, both dependent as well as what independent one, by assigning a method name to the node property done in the design time. Okay, the WebDriver tool automatically enhances the corresponding control with supply function, including the user coding area contained. Yeah, what is the meaning of the supply function is, see here, the supply function is a special kind of what method. Supply function is a special kind of method. Just like if you have constructors, when the constructor will be called whenever we create the object. Similarly, Supply functions are also created at what? Node level. Supply functions are always created at what? Node level. It is also a kind of what? Method. Okay, the supply functions are automatically called whenever the node is accessed. Okay, so the advantage of using the supply function is, suppose so far what is the process we are following. Suppose we have node, okay, under this, okay, assume this is what? Parent node. Under the parent node, we have created what? One child node. Under the child node, I have created one attribute one. Okay, so I have to set the value of what? Attribute one. So how do we travel? We have to travel from parent to child, and from child to, we have to set the value of what? Attribute one. So explicitly we have to get the reference of this node na? Get child node. Again, using that reference, you have to get the reference of what? Child node. Again, you have to call what? Get child node. But now what I can do is, as part of these nodes, I can create what? A special method called as what? Supply function. So the advantage of this is, whenever we create the supply function, by default it will provide me one parameter for what? Supply function. That parameter will be reference of what? Node. That parameter will be reference of what? Node. Means explicitly I need not get the what? Reference of the node. Explicitly I need not get the reference of the node. Okay, now what I'll do is, just observe here, simple requirement. This is my Webdynpro what? View. It should contain one table to display what? Sales orders data. Okay, so this is my uh, table containing what? Sales order data. Okay, so now what is the context you'll create? Yes, you'll create a context what? 1 second please. Yeah, you'll create a context what? VBAK node, referring to what? Some dictionary structure. Okay, assume that is what? ZC what? VBAK. Under this will take what? Some attributes like what? Weblen, ERDAT, all these things, you'll take the attributes. Now how do you fill the data into this? We'll write the select statement to get the data into the internal table. Then in order to bind that internal table in this table, I have to get the reference of what? Node, and using that reference we'll call the method what? Bind table. So now what I'll do is, while creating the node itself, I'll create a special method called as what? Supply function. So what happens now? The node reference is automatically given by whom? SAP itself. Okay, and that node, using that node reference, I can directly bind the table. So explicitly I need not get the reference of what? Nodes. That is the advantage. Okay, so let me do it now. So I'll go to SCAT object navigator. Done. I'll give the window name underscore window, view name. Okay, I'll give the view name as something what? Something v1. Done. Component gets created. Right, component got created. Now under this view, I want to take a table. So before designing the table, I require the context now. So let me create the context node. So I'll open it in the chain mode. I'll go to, since I'm having only one view, directly create the context at what? View level. So I'll go to context. Under root context, I'll create what? Note. I'll give the node name as what? VBAK underscore node. Dictionary structure is what? Yes. What is that? ZC VBAK. Since I have to bind with a table, I'll choose a cardinality as what? 0 to n. So if I create like this, where do we write the logic for defaulting the data? WD do init method. Now what I'll do, while creating the node, you can see there is one field here. What is this? Supply function. Understood? So supply function is always created at what? Node level. Okay, so I'll give the supply function name as, you can give any name. Let me give it as what? Get VBAK. Okay, then as usual, since I'm referring to dictionary structure, I will add the attributes from what? Dictionary structure. So let me click on this button. I'll choose I'll choose these fields. Am I clear? Choose the fields, continue. Done. So you can see node is created along with what? A special function called what? Supply function. Done. Let me save it, check it. Okay, now see the advantage. If I go to the methods tab, if I go to the methods tab, we have WD unit method. We also have what? Get VBA. What is that method type? Supply function. So I want to check which method will be called first, whether we'll call WD unit or we'll call what? Supply function. So I'll go to what? WD do init. I'll just say what? Inside what? Init. Done. I cannot activate individual methods. Done. Then I'll go to what? Get VBAK. See the advantage. If I go to get VBAK, see here, this get VBAK supply function has got two inbuilt parameters. Two inbuilt parameters. One is node, another is what? Parent element. One is node, another is what? Parent element. As of now, 1 second. Yeah, we have node and we have what? Parent element. Okay, so here what you have to understand is we have created the context node here as a child now. Okay, so for this, who is the parent? Root context. Okay, for VBAK node, the root context is what? This one, root context. Okay, the root node is root context. So here what you have to understand is there are two parameters, node and what? Parent underscore element. Node refers to current node. What is the current node? VBAK node. Parent underscore element refers to what? Parent node. What is the parent node here? Root context. This one. Am I clear? So simple thumb rule. Always you'll have two inbuilt parameters for supply function. Node and what? Parent element. Node will refer to the current node. Parent underscore element will refer to what? Parent node. Okay. So as of in this case, I will not use this parameter parent element. I'll use only what? Node. What is this node here? Reference of which interface? If WD context node. So what you have to understand? This parameter is holding the reference of what? Current node. What is the current node? VBAK node. So they give some documentation here. See this? General notes. A common scenario for supply method is so and so. I'll refer to these notes later on. So what is the requirement now? Get the data and display the data. So here. I'll not disturb. I'll sorry. So somewhere here, I'm not removing those comments. What is the first step I have to do? Is what? Get what? Sales orders. Okay. So I require internal table now. So I'll say data. Okay, data what? T underscore what? VBAK type what? WD underscore this of what? Elements underscore what? VBA, already we know this, right? So I'm declaring an internal table. So select weblan what? ERDAT, ERZDT, NAM from what? So the thing you have to focus here is we are not writing the logic in the init method. We are writing inside what? Supply function. From VBAK into table. What is the internal table? T underscore what? VBAK. VBAK. I'll just say up to what? Some 10 rows. Then what you'll do? If what? Size of r is equal to 0. Earlier, in order to bind this internal table with this node, we have to get the reference of this node. Na? We have to call the method get child node. Now I need not get the reference. That reference is available by default. So now what you have to directly? Yes, bind what? Sales order. So what is the node reference here? Sorry, I have to check it in parameters. Na? What is the node reference? Node, which is object of this interface. Na? So here I'll say what? Bind sales orders with what? Default what? Reference. What is the default reference here? Node only, na? Node of what? Bind underscore what? Table. What is the internal table? T underscore what? VBAK. Done. End if. That's all. Okay. So now let me save it. Check for the syntax error. Done. By default, window is plugged to what? Sorry, view is plugged to what? Window. Let me create the application. Okay, let me activate this. I click on the component and say activate. Then it is activated. Now I'll put the breakpoints. I'll put the breakpoints in wd_init method. Okay, and also put the breakpoint in what? Our supply function. So what I'm trying to check is I want to check which method will be executed first, whether it is init method or what? Supply function. So when I run it, when I run the application, right click and say test. Is it going to debugger mode? It is going to debugger mode. Yes. Which method? Always what? Wd do init. Always wd do init method. Now I'll say F8. What happened? Oh, I'm sorry. I have not designed the layout now. I have not designed the layout, right? So I have to design the layout. I require what table now? Then only I can bind, right? So I'll right click or I can go to what? Wizard, table, context node is what? VBAK node, done. That is created. Let me create the table header. Done. Let me activate the whole component. So now which method is called first? WD. Okay, some other method is getting called. Okay, one second. Let me give the breakpoints once again. I'll go to this WD do init method. I'm setting the breakpoints once again. Yeah. Which method first? WD do init. I'll say F8. Next it is going to what? Our supply function. Am I clear? So first method is what? WD init. Then only our nodes are what? Instantiated. Our nodes are instantiated means the corresponding supply function gets executed. So when I say F8, did I got the data? Yes. So what is the advantage here? What is the advantage of using supply function? Explicitly we did not get the reference of the node, but generally where exactly we use this supply function means in what kind of scenarios we'll use supply function is in this kind of scenarios. Here in the documentation you can see in the supply function a common scenario for a supply method is to acquire key information from the parameter what? Parent element, and then to invoke what? Data provider. So already we have seen this kind of example. We are identifying that selected sales order row. Based on that, we are getting the item data. Na? So who is the parent? Header. Who is the child? Item. Okay, so in those kind of scenarios, we have to go for what? Supply function, it seems here. A common scenario for a supply method is to acquire key information from the parameter what? Parent element, and then to invoke a data provider. So as of now, if you see the implementation, it has it has got how many parameters? Two parameters, node and what? Parent underscore element. But I am using only what? Only what parameter? Node, which refers to what? Current node. Na? So the common scenario would be something like this. This is a common scenario. Okay, what is this? This is your sales order header. This is your sales order what? Item. So what is the context here? VBAK node. Already I created what? Supply function. Now I'll create a node as a child of what? VBAK node. So far what we are doing? We are creating this VBAK node as a child of root. Na? Now I'm going to create this as what? Child of what? VBAK. So that for this also I'll create what? Supply function. So here also we'll have how many parameters? Two parameters. Node and what? Parent element. Node and parent element. Node refers to what? Current node. Parent element refers to what? The parent node. So means what is the advantage? I need not get the reference of current node. I need not get the reference of what? Parent node. Okay. Already we'll have the references directly identify the selected row. How to identify? Get static attributes now. Get static attributes. So let's see this. That's what the document is saying. So what is the change I have to do now? Go back to your view. Okay, I want to show the sales items also. So before I design another table, I'll go to what? Context. Under what? Our VBAK node. Right click on this. Create what? Node. I'll give the node name is what? VBAP underscore node. What is the dictionary structure? ZC VBAP. Cardinality is again what? 0 to n. Supply function. What is the supply function now? Get VBAP. Get VBAP. Add attributes from what? Structure. So you can see the hierarchy here. VBAP node is a child of what? VBAK node. Okay, and both are having what? Supply functions. Now we have to implement the supply function of VB. Okay, let us design the layout first. I require one more table now. Let me design the table. Context node this time is what? VBAP node, which has got 4 fields. Done. Let me give the heading for this also. Done. Now implement that another supply function. What is the other supply function? Get VBAP. So I'll just double click on this. Yeah, done. Here also we have two references. So what is the first step I have to do? What is the first step I have to do? Identify what? Selected row in the parent element. Identify the selected row in the parent element. How to identify the selected row? What is the method you have to use? Get static attributes. Get static attributes was the instance method of which interface? If WD context node. But here parent element, if you see it is a reference of which interface? Element, not node. So let me check in this interface whether we have that method or not. Because to identify the selected row, what is the method I have to use? Get static attributes. Earlier we know that that method belongs to what? If WD context node. Now the node reference is pointing to what? Context element. Let me double click and check. Yeah. In the context element interface also, do we have that method? Yes. Understood. So can I call this? Yes. Am I clear? So it is part of both the interfaces. So now what I'll do now, it returns me the work area. Na? When I identify the selected row, it returns me what? Work area. So here I'll declare a work area. Data what? W underscore K. Type ref. Type what? Type what? Hmm? W underscore this of what? Element. Element underscore VBAK underscore node. So now I'll go to pattern. What is the parent object given by SAP? Yes, parent underscore what? Element. What is the reference? If WD what? Context node. What is the method? Here also, sorry, not node. What is this? Element. What is this? Get static attributes. Am I clear? Get static attributes. It returns with a work area. W underscore what? What? VBAK. Now what I have to do? Next step. Get what? Corresponding what? Sales items. I require internal table. Na? So data T underscore VBAP type WD this of what? Elements. Elements underscore VBAP underscore node. So select VBLN item number, material number, net value from what? VBAP table into what? Table. What is the internal table? T underscore VBAP. Where what? Where what? What is the common field? Weblen. Where sales document is equal to what? What is the selected work area? WAVBAK hyphen. That contains all the four fields. Na? Once again, it got stuck. Just hold on to this. Yeah. So where VBLN equal to what? W underscore VBAK hyphen weblen. Then what is the next step? If what? Size of RC is equal to what? 0. What I have to do? I have to bind the sales items. For that you have to get the reference. Na? But we are in what? Supply function. I need not get the reference. So what I have to bind what? Sales items. Okay. So what is the current node reference? Node only. Na? Node. So I'll say node of what is the method? Bind table. What is the internal table? T underscore what? VBAP. And that's it. Okay, so this is a common serial. No? What is the documentation they are giving? Common serial of subtopic is to acquire what? Key information from parameter what? Parent element and then invoke what? Data product. So what is the key information I am getting from the parent? Weblen. The selected row I am getting. That contains what? Weblen. Based on that Weblen only we are getting that corresponding item data binding. So here the advantage is what? We are not getting the reference of parent as well as what? Child. Check it. No errors. Done. Activate this. Let me activate the old component. Done. See here? By default, first one is selected. First is coming. I'll select what? 4971. Is it changing? Yes. Whenever the parent is accessed, child is also getting what? Refreshed. That's all. This is a common scenario for what? Supply function. Any questions here? Please ask me. So it is not my VBAK. What is that I give? CVBAP. That's all. This is about what? Supply function. Any questions? Next, let us see a concept called as what? Service call. Understood? Service call. So let us Google what is this service call. Right. So let me open the standard documentation. Service calls in what? Webdynpro application. What is the use? A service call is used to call what? An existing function module or methods of an what? Existing class within a Webdynpro component. Okay. This is particularly useful with reference to what? Assistance class or what? Proxy classes of what? Web services. Okay. Prerequisite: if you want to use a service call to include an existing function module in your WebDynpro application, you can access the function module that are available in the system. To simplify the creation process, you have an extensive wizard at your disposal. With the help of this wizard, all the required done. Okay, for more information, what? Creating that service call. Let me click on creating the service call. So it's also one kind of service. If you want to access uh, a web application developed in other technology, we use what? Proxy classes. So what is the description? Creating a service call. To create a service call, you have an easy to use wizard at your disposal. Starting the wizard, done. Okay. Yeah, service call can only always be embedded in what? Global controllers, that is in the component controller or in additionally created custom controller. It is not possible on the other hand to embed service calls in what? View controllers. Done. So just to give the information on the service calls. Okay, these service calls I can use. Okay, I can use the service calls to call what? Function models from what? Webdynpro component. How do we call a function model? By using what? Call function. We can use that statement, but by using this service call, if I configure, if I call the function, what is the advantage is, so far what is the development procedure we are following? First we are creating what? Context. Then we are designing what? Layout. Then we are implementing the what? Methods. Okay, now whenever we configure service call, what happens is, whenever we configure the service call, what happens is, yeah, whenever we configure the service call, automatically, depending on the parameters you select in the function model, automatically node is what? Created. Am I clear? So whenever we configure a service call, as part of that configuration, what we will do? We will select the parameters of what? Function model. Depending on the parameters you select, automatically node is what? Sorry, automatically what is created? Context is what? Created. Automatically context is created. Okay, this context you have to map it to what? Where this context gets created? Always it is created globally, in the sense what? It is created as part of what? Component controller. But we design the layout where at the view level na, and we have to bind our UI elements with the context na. So at the view level, what you have to do? You have to do the internal context mapping. Already we know internal context mapping the context from component controller to what? View controller. So whatever the context which got created at the component controller, we have to map it to what? View level. That is internal context mapping. After that, you have to design the view layout binding with your view context. Apart from that, SAP will generate one method called as what? Execute underscore what? Function module name. Where this method gets generated, it is also generated what? Component controller level. Okay, this method we have to call from what? View level. Call from what? View level, so that whenever we call this method, it will internally call what? Function model. Understood? So we will not directly call what? Function model. We'll call what? The generated method. What is the generated method name? Execute underscore what? Function module name. Where this method gets generated always at what? Component controller level. I need to call this method from the corresponding view controller, so that internally our function model gets what? Called. And it will automatically do the binding. I need not write the logic. What is the advantage of this method is, so far we are getting the references, we are setting and binding. You need not do all those binding. It is done by what? The service call itself. So that is the advantage of using what? Service call. So to summarize, service call is always configured as part of what? Webdynpro component to call what? Existing function modules. As part of that configuration, we need to select the required parameters of what? Function model. Depending on the parameters you select, automatically a context gets created as part of what? Component controller. This apart from the context, SAP also generates what? A method called as what? Execute underscore function module name. This context you have to map it from component controller to view controller and bind it with the corresponding UI elements, and call this generated method from the view level, so that internally it calls the function model and will do the necessary binding. Explicitly we need not do the binding. Am I clear? That's all. So what I'll do is, we are having one function module. Any function model we can call. Okay, so I'll take a very simple function model, pappy underscore flight underscore what? Get list. Pappy underscore flight underscore get list. As the name itself suggests, it is going to return the details of what? Flight. Okay, and you can see this function model. It has got some parameters. Destination from, destination, all are what? Optional. Select the departure city, select the destination. If I do that, it will return me an internal table. It will return me an internal table containing what? List of what? Flight. So my requirement is what? In my layout, I have to give the destination from and what? Destination to. If I give destination from and destination to, it has to return me the list of what? Flights. So destination from and destination to, they are referring to what? Structures. Nothing but I'll create a form on this parameter, another form on what? This parameter, and I'll create an internal table based on what? Flight underscore list. This is an internal table because it is under what section? Yes, table section. Okay, so let me configure this particular function model. So at the end you'll get something like this. Okay, so automatically what gets created? Context at what level? Component level. I'll select these three parameters: destination from, destination to, and what? Flight list. What you have to do? We have to do the internal context mapping, so that it is mapped to what? View level. Then I'll design the view layout binding these UI elements with my view context nodes and what? Attributes. Then I'll call the generated method, which will internally call what? Function model. Am I clear? So let me do it. So I'll go to SC80 Object Navigator. 10 is over. So I'll go for what? 11. Create the object. Yes, I'll give the description. Service call configuration. I'll give the window name as underscore window. Let the view name is what? Main view content. right? Component got created. So as of now you can see, if you go to component controller, there is no context available. Obviously at the view level also there will be no context available. There is no context available. If you see the component controller, how many methods are there at this stage? 1 2 3 4 5 methods are there. Okay, so I'll configure the service call. How do you configure? Simple. Right click on the component, right click on the Webdynpro component, create what? Service call. Understood? Right click on the Webdynpro component, create service call. Let me click on this. Yeah, this is like a roadmap only, na? Roadmap view element. These are all the steps. These are nothing but what? Views. So start. You can use this wizard to create a model oriented controller. So I'll click on continue. For the first step, start. It is asking the select the controller. Whenever we create the Webdynpro component, along with the component, what gets created? Component controller. So you can see create new controller or use what? I want to use the existing. It got stuck. I'll use the existing controller. What is the controller name? Browse this. What is that? Component controller. So I'm using the existing controller. Continue. That is asking what? Whether you want to call a function module or class method or what? Web service. Okay, I'll choose what? Function module. Understood? In the service type, I'll choose what? Function module. Okay, so I'll choose function module. Continue. It is asking the name of the function model. What is that? BAPI underscore flight underscore get list. If this function module is available in other SAP server, we have to give what? RFC destination. Means you have to create the RFC destination SM59. You have to create the RFC destination SM59 and provide that particular destination. If I don't give the RFC destination, it will search for this function module in the current SAP server only. Okay, done. Continue. Done. So you can see here, it is going to show me the parameters related to this particular function model. See here, these are all the parameter function models. So in the import section, you can see we have what? Destination from. So let me select here. Okay, what I'll do? Destination from, I'll choose what? Context node or attribute. Destination to also I'll choose what? Context node or what? Attribute. Destination from, destination to, and what? Flight list. Here also I'll choose what? Context node and what? Attribute. Understood? So since I've chosen what? Context node or slash attribute, what are the three parameters I selected? Those three parameters will be created as context as part of what? Component controller. Am I clear? Continue. Yeah, you can see what is the method which is getting generated? Execute underscore what? Function module name. Where it gets generated? As part of what? Component controller. So continue. That's it. Okay, complete. Done. You can see context got created as part of what? Component controller. Okay, under import section we have destination from, destination to. Changing section we have what? Flight list. Then if you see at the component controller only, if you go to methods tab, we have a method with what name? Yes, execute underscore what? Function module name. It is a normal method, so we have to call. Okay, so let me go to what? View level. So first what you have to do to design the layout of the view, context should be available at the view level. Na? As of now, there is no context available at what? View level. So I'll do what? Internal context mapping. Okay, I'll do the internal context mapping. So I'll choose the context tab. Right, I'll expand this. We have import section 2. We are changing what? One section. So I'll map destination from. I'll map destination to. I'll map flight list. Done. So all the three nodes are mapped from where? Component controller to what? View controller. Context is ready at what level? view level. Okay, so if you see the this thing, destination for referring to which distance structure? PAPI. 1:1 means what? I can create only a record form. Destination 2 is also what? 1:1. Flight list is what? 0 to 10. So I can create a table now, right? Okay, done. Now I'll go to what? Layout. So I require what? Two forms and one table and one button. Okay, so I'll go to, right. So this is my view layout. Okay, this is a root element container. Okay, in the root element container, what I have to do first, initially I have to create what? Form. Okay, I'll create the form here, right. I'll go to the code wizard. I'll choose what? Form. Okay, in the form I'll choose what? Context node. On which node you want to create? Destination from. I don't want all these four fields. So let me choose destination from. I don't want all the fields. So I'll choose only what airport ID I don't want. So I'll deselect this. I don't want ISO code of the country. I'll deselect this. Am I clear? So only what? Two things gets what? Created. So create the section header. Yes. Create the form in the new container. Yes. Let it create. Done. Am I clear? Only two things gets created. Continue. So you can see here we have what? So and so. So this is a section header. Section header. We have the text by default here. Done. Let it be like that. Done. 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 Okay. And everything is binded here. Label. Label. What are the important properties? Label for and what? Label for is important property. Done. Okay. Done. So let me create what? One more. What? Form. I'll choose this code wizard. I'll choose form. Context node is what? Destination to. Okay, let me choose everything. I don't want here also airport ID and ISO code. I'll tell only to continue. Right. So one more form kind of thing got created. Yeah, text is there by default. If you want to change the text, you change. Okay, let me change. For the first form, destination from. I'll say this is what? Destination to. Clear? Done. Okay, so done. Save it, check it. Then I require a table na? I require a table. So as usual, I'll choose root element container. I'll go to code wizard. What I have to choose? Table. I'll choose the context node as what? Flight list. Done. Then I want, if you want all the things, let it be like that. Continue. So one table gets what? Created. For the table, let me give the section header. That is table header. Flight details. Done. Okay, so my layout is ready now. Layout is ready. Then I'll take one button also, so that when I click on the button, I have to call that generated method. So I'll choose the duty element container, right click, insert element. I'll give b1 type what? Button. For the button, I'll give the text. Get flight details. For the button, you have to assign what? On action event. So I'll go to action. I'll give the action name as get what? Flights. Some description. Get flights. Done. Let me save it. By default, this view is embedded to what? Window. Let me create the application. Create what? Webdynpro application. I'll give the application name as underscore app 11. Done. Save it. Let me activate the component once. Right click on the component and say activate. Done, it is activated. Let me execute this. Right click on the application and say test. Good. Okay, so I got city, country, all those things. Am I clear? So am I F4 help here? I'll press F4. Right, city and what? Country. So I'll choose something. Berlin is there. I'll choose what? Berlin. Berlin. Country is what? Germany. Destination 2. I'll browse this. I'll press F4. I'll choose some other destination like Frankfurt. Okay. Now when I click on this, what I have to do based on this, I have to get the data and bind it here. Now. So generally, if you are writing, what you have to do, we have to say call function model. You have to read these values. We have to what read the context values and then pass it to what function model, receive the results and then bind it to table. Na? But here, what I'll do, I'll call the what generated method. Where is the generated method available as part of what component controller? What is the method name? Execute underscore function module name. Execute underscore function module name. This method I have to call. This method I have to call from where? From the on action event of what button. So here I have to call. Understood? But where is the method available? See here. It is not available in the view level. If you see, is it available here? No, it is available at what? Component level. So, simple understanding. I have to call the method which is available as part of what? Component controller. See here, if you go to attributes tab, this anyhow we know already, right? It is a standard interface given by what? SAP. This interface gets generated whenever we create what? View. Okay, and you can see on behalf of the component controller, this interface is provided. What is the name of this interface? IG underscore what? Component controller. What is the object of this interface? I am calling this also as what? Interface. Let me double click and check. If I double click, yes, it is also what? Interface. So what is the object of that? WD controller. Let me double click and check whether that method is it is available everywhere. In other so far what are the 10 examples you have seen, there also it is available but we have not used. In every view, this interface will be available. This interface will contain the what? Methods related to what? Component controller. Understood? Okay. So when I double click on this, understood? When I double click on this IG underscore what? Component controller, right? In this particular what? Interface, if you scroll down, 5 minutes, okay? In this, do we have that method? Yeah, you can see what is this? Execute underscore bappy underscore flight underscore get doesn't have any parameters. So it's an instance method now. How to call instance methods? By using what? Object. So it got stuck 1 second. Is it clear? So what is the object of this interface given by SAP? WD underscore comp underscore what? Controller. So let me go to what? Methods tab. In the methods tab, in the on action event handler method, yeah, here what I have to do? Call service call method available at what? What? Component controller. So how to call? I can direct what is the object given by SAP? WD underscore comp underscore what? Controller. What is the method? Execute underscore bappy underscore what? What? Flight underscore what? Get list. Okay, I'm just calling the method. So save it. This method will internally call what? the configured function module. So if you go and check here, this method is implemented by whom? SAP itself. Let me double click on this. Yeah, there is some code generated automatically now. So I need not worry about this code. Am I clear? So you can observe internally they are calling what? Function model. Okay, so that is the advantage of using what? Service call. So just you have to call that particular generated method as part of your what? View level. Okay, how do you refer to the component controller methods from the view level? By using the object what? WD underscore comp underscore what? Controller. That's what I have done here. Okay, so let me activate. Let me execute. Already executed now. I'll just refresh this. I'll say F5. Done. So I'll browse this. I'll choose what? Berlin. Frankfurt. I'll click on the button. I clicked on the button. Good. I got the data. Understood? So I need not write any select statements. I need not read this context notes. I need not bind. I need not call the function model. It is inbuilt. That's all. That is the advantage of what? Service call. Clear? So if you have time, you try to do this exercise. What is the function model? BAPI underscore bank underscore what? Get list. So just check the signature and try to do that. Configure this particular function model at what? Component level as part of service call. Done now? That's all. So we have discussed supply function and what? So they're all very small topics, independent topics. Clear? Any questions? I'm not following the syllabus sequence, so don't worry about the syllabus sequence. I'll be shuffling here and there. I'm not getting any questions. So what does mean? You understood or hope it's clear to everyone? Online, hope everyone is active. Yeah, fine. Please respond. Okay. Right. So practice this part. Tomorrow, what we'll do most probably is, so I'm not going by the sequence of the syllabus. So just observe here. We understood how to plug views to window, what is context binding, defining actions, implementing what? Event handler, reading and get setting what? Attributes, reading and binding what? Context node, lead selection, single row, multiple rows. Okay, internal context mapping. Okay, and inbound and outbound plugs at what? View level, plugs with parameters, how to trigger plug, navigation link. They're all basic navigation between views, data transfer between views. And coming to the UI elements, we have seen buttons, uh, what view container, we have seen what? List box. Okay, we have seen buttons, we have seen input fields, caption. Okay, and what we discussed today? Service call. So somewhere service call implementation and what? Supply functions. Okay, so there are some miscellaneous concepts. Okay, so tomorrow most probably what we'll do is, so far we are not seen how to flash messages in Webdynpro. So probably we'll see what? Message management in what? Webdynpro. Okay, so again we'll go back here and we'll discuss all this. Right? So chalo then. So I'm winding off. We'll continue tomorrow with other concepts.